Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations on the Conscious Awakening Network. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank each of you for joining us tonight. Now, this month, my co host is and has been all month Dr. Joan, or known as Joan of Angels. But Joan is a visionary artist, she's an intuitive guide, and a transformational mentor who specializes in helping individuals align with their highest divine purpose. With a background in chiropractic care and metaphysical healing, she integrates physical, emotional, and spiritual well being into her work. And now she offers esoteric chiropractor. Joan also channels angelic wisdom and cosmic messages through her soul portraits, her workshops, and through personal sessions, inspiring others to awaken to their highest potential. Dr. Joan guides people through personal empowerment, creative expression, and connection with their own celestial teams, and she empowers them to step fully into their mission. So I am super excited that Joan has been here with me all month. Joan, I sincerely appreciate it. You have been a phenomenal co-host, so come on up. Hi.
Hi, I'm ready. You gotta
Okay.
bring me up. Okay. I am so happy to be here. Definitely. Thank you very much for inviting me and for that great introduction. But I actually feel excited that I get to interview you guys. I get to talk to everyone here, and I sort of got to you have to touch back in every so often when you're out there in the galaxy,
That's right.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's really exciting because I think I've been interviewed once on Cosmic Conversations.
Oh my God,
And I
you're
never
kidding.
talk, I never present or anything. One night I did talk about walk-ins when we had one of our hosts that the last minute was unable to make it. And then, of course, tonight. And it's not just me tonight, but it's also the wonderful, phenomenal Barbara Lamb. And Barbara, it's such an honor to have you here with us tonight. And it's such an honor to have you as my co-author on the book Cosmic Convergence. And, Barbara has been in this field for, gosh, I don't know how many years, but she has conducted so many phenomenal life-changing hypnotherapy sessions with people. Now, tonight, Willow's also wanting to join us. So you're going to see his head bobbing up and down and up and down. So sorry if that's distracting, but I can only do what I can do. But anyway, I want to get back to Barbara because Barbara really, if you are looking for someone trustworthy to have a hypnotherapy session, there's lots of great people out there. But I tell you, I think Barbara is the cream of the crop because she has, through her years of experience, developed these techniques in this very loving and compassionate manner that enables people to really drop deep and to be able to open up. And so, Barbara, I want to thank you for being here with us tonight and also for being my co-author.
Oh, well, I thank you. It's such a pleasure. I can't think of anybody I'd rather be a co-author with.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And with all your incredible knowledge, I'm just amazed, not only in reading the book, but in every interview that we give, I learn even more from your experience and your point of view as a very celestial cosmic being and a walk-in, and that the fact that you have brought all this information to us is really remarkable. And
Mm,
I thank you for that.
thanks. I'd like to take the credit for it, but really it's my collective. Yeah, I
Well,
used to say, "Oh my gosh, what a great idea. Oh my gosh, wasn't that a novel concept?" And then finally one day they're like, that's not you, that's us. And I'm like, "Oh," ego goes,
oh, Oh, right. But
Yeah.
anyway, you bring it through so beautifully
Oh,
and
thank
so clearly. I mean, I really think that most people in the world probably don't know about walk-ins or even starseeds or hybrids. And it would be good for them to know that these kinds of beings are with us, living amongst us as humans, and that all of these beings are really here to help the whole world, to help the population of the world, to help the earth itself.
you.
So, with so many negative things going on in the world that we can all worry about, it's, of great concern. I mean, some of them are life and death matters. Many of them are, or matters of financial potential disaster, which nobody wants. With all these different things going on that we keep learning more and more about as they get uncovered, it's really reassuring to me to know that there are people like you, other walk-ins and starseeds and hybrids who are all here to help humanity. So we are very fortunate. And I think that the more people who know about these kinds of people being here, the better. It could kind of give them a sigh of relief that some people are really here to help and not to just take advantage of other people. We're learning more about all the time, I think, more and more.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Thank you. And a big thank you to Miss Joan of Angels for being here all month and guiding us and bringing some phenomenal speakers to us this month. So Joan, thank you very much.
You are so very welcome. So you didn't actually send me a bio. I was gonna read the back of this bio, but I feel like you ladies are doing like your own introduction, but I have a really serious question to start off with. So is your dog a starseed, a walk-in, or a hybrid?
He is a starseed walk-in, no joke.
She's laughing. I
He
need to know.
literally came in during a seizure, and I had his Syrian parents to actually come and thank me because he is, I guess you'd say, kind of like a teenager, if you will. And he wanted to come down. He wanted to experience what was going on, but he wanted to do it safely. And he wanted to do it. And the parents wanted him to go someplace where they knew he would be really loved and taken care of. And I'll be honest with you, when he was having the seizures and after all of this finished, I even had a medicine woman from Canada to call and say, do you know that your dog is a starseed? And she started telling me pretty much verbatim what I had seen for myself. And it was confirmation, but I was just kind of like, whoa, I didn't know that her animals could be walk-ins. And I definitely didn't know they could be starseeds. I thought that the animal kingdom was all part of the animal soul family.
So when
Uh,
you say that, I'm sorry, what's her name again? His name again?
Willow.
Willow, I'm so sorry, it keeps slipping my mind. But so Willow was with you. You'd had Willow for quite a while when this happened.
I had had him for about 3 months. And because he was only he was 1.9 pounds when I got him, but he had received almost a full dose of his vaccinations.
Yeah.
And that really, at first, he started having blood sugar issues, and then he went into full-blown seizures. And this occurred probably pretty strongly for about 3 months. And then he went into massive seizures. And I thought we were going to lose him. And he actually was hospitalized and, had all kinds of care and everything. But when he got back, he just wasn't the same dog that left, literally. And he hid in the bathroom away from me, probably for about 3 weeks. And I thought, oh, this poor little dog is
Oh
not
my
going to make
goodness.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
That,
Wow.
whoops, sorry. Apparently, that was when the transition occurred, was
That
during that time after he came back.
that is really something. Can we put Barbara up here too?
Yeah, let's go ahead and put everybody.
So we
Let me go
can,
ahead
so we
and
can see. So when you say that Willow's a starseed walk-in, was she like a, well, human? Was she like a ET person being or an ET kind of dog or?
Where did he come from?
Well,
Sirius.
so
He
he
came,
was
he came from the Sirius constellation.
and
Oh,
was he
Yeah.
a Syrian?
He'd be a Syrian starseed who, like many people, became a walk-in.
And
huh.
became a walk-in and chose to walk in an animal here on the planet. Does
He
that
did.
happen often? Like, does
I
that?
didn't, you know what? I didn't ask. I know that it happened for me, but that is something I'll talk to my collective about because I don't know. They just, I mean,
Right?
I've experienced a lot of phenomenal things, including being a walk-in myself. And when they told me my dog was a walk-in, I'm like, what?
Oop,
What? Are you
no,
serious?
that
That
didn't
can
work.
actually happen? And of course, I should know that it can because it happened to me.
No,
Oh,
absolutely.
Jim just said the nickname for Sirius is Dog Star.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
Wow.
Okay. So
yeah.
that that is an amazing takeaway from all of this. And I'm willing to bet that there are other
I bet.
animals that even some of you guys might have pets that walked in at some point. How would you, and then we'll go to the humans, but how would you know your dog was a walk-in?
Well, for me, I just knew his personality had changed. And I
Mhm.
knew, but I assumed that it was because of all the seizure activity and he
Right.
was just recouping. Never in a million years would I have thought to ask my collective, hey, did a walk-in happen to my dog? Never thought of it. But only
Wow.
when his parents came to me and they materialized and said, we want to thank you for all the care that you've given to our son. And I'm like, are they talking about Dylan? I mean, because I have a son, and I thought they were talking about my son. And then come to find out it was Willow. And
Whoa.
he helps in healing sessions and everything.
What were the parents like who came
That's a
to you?
great question.
Yeah, they were very etheric in nature. They were probably 7 to 7.5 foot tall. And I'm going to assume it was the father. The mother was the one doing all the talking, the female, and she presented herself. She had on like a white kind of gown. The man had on something that was brown. It seemed to be more tunicky. And the woman had like a gold sash around. And as I mean, it was very telepathic, but it was very, very elegant. So as they were communicating with me, she would be nodding her head and stuff like this. And the man with her would be nodding his head, even though I didn't pick up anything from him because I'm like, you know, I do that all the time. And I'm so surprised that they don't say, you should be used to this stuff by now. You go on crafts, you do this, you do that, and you're always with my mouth agape open.
But
I think that's amazing.
had
I'm just
you,
blown away. I feel like there's a lot we can learn. What do you think about this, Barbara?
well, I was just going to ask Sheila, um, if she had known about animals or dogs in particular being walk-ins before. I had
Never.
not been
Mm-mm.
personally aware of that. I know that some people are.
Yeah.
But did you know, Sheila, that
No.
possible
I
to
had I
That's
had
what she
absolutely
said.
no idea. None
Someone else
whatsoever.
confirmed it for you, right?
Yeah.
That was your comment. So this opens up. Okay, guys, this is breaking news. I mean, this is hot off the press. Your animal could be a walk-in, and now we need to really understand that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah.
but
you know,
not crazy.
I wonder if dogs who are officially service animals,
Mm.
helping the blind and so forth, I
Mhm.
wonder if some of them are walk-ins.
Wow, I wonder
Maybe.
about that, Barbara, because some animals, some of these dogs have such a feeling of service and they're so good at
Mhm.
it as if they were trained, spiritually to do the work. I feel
Yeah.
like this opens up a whole new dimension. I can see your next book.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I have been told that everything that's on this planet is a representation of what's out there, even the blades of grass, that there are beings that look like blades of grass. There are beings that look like trees. There are beings that look like all the insects that we have. And there are beings that look like our animal kingdom. So it would only make sense that if they're having a soul experience, that they too could become a walk-in, and definitely a starseed, because I say this kind of in jest, but it's really true. All
Yeah.
souls come from somewhere. Yes, we do start with source, but when we incarnate into the body, if we're not a direct source seed, or if we're not an earth seed, which still the earth seeds came from someplace else before they joined Gaia and her consciousness, we come from the stars, or we come from, the interdimensional planes, or we come from the angelic realm. And so it would only serve as, to me, it would only make sense that the animals could have that type of experience. And who knows, maybe the trees, maybe the rocks, maybe everything on this planet has those types of experiences, because in one form or the other, everything has consciousness, because
That's right.
everything is from source. So how could it not have consciousness?
And it really shows us, like the star, the ETs are coming in not just in our human forms. You're right. They could be coming in the rocks, it could be coming in the trees, but now we know for sure that they have come in at least one member of the animal kingdom that we know of.
That's right.
Now we're on a search for
There you go.
the
Okay,
rest.
folks. So if you think that your pet is a walk-in, please let us know. Email me at sheila@sheilaseppi.com.
It's a whole new research project
It
in a
is.
way. Okay,
It is.
it really is. I saw some funny show about aliens recently, and the alien was talking to the octopus, and the octopus was from his home planet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
kind of interesting. Okay, so here's a good question. Let's start the interview officially, although I'm so delighted to find something new. It's really exciting to me. What inspired the two of you to collaborate on Cosmic Convergence? And what's the key message here that you want people to take away from?
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I have to say that Sheila initiated contacting me. I knew, of course, that she was a walk-in, and I knew Sheila and was very, very fond of her, and knew that she had written a wonderful book about walk-ins, cosmology of the soul. And I just really admired her work and her sharing that. So when she approached me saying that she was writing this book and would I like to collaborate with it, I was just really thrilled. I've been very happy to provide cases of hybrids and starseeds and hybrids whom I have worked with in my regression therapy practice. So it seemed like a really wonderful fit. And I think it really is.
I think so too. I can feel the easy flow. I bet writing it was a fun project for the
Yes,
yeah.
two of you. The
Yeah, I
connection,
think it
I
was
can just
really
feel it.
fun.
Uh-huh.
I
So
enjoyed it. So what about you, Sheila? How did you happen to approach me about this book?
Well, I fan club you. I love Barbara.
it's
Barbara, I
beautiful.
really, I have so much respect for you, and you've helped me, so much in my walk. And I think we've done a couple regressions now, and I always learn a little bit more,
Oh,
and the thing that I think that I appreciate the most is the basics stay the same, and then we just add to it. And the way that Barbara leads you in to the regressions, you automatically feel safe and secure. But I've also, I've loved the work that Barbara's done, with whether it's Sasquatch or whether it's crop circles. And I also, Barbara has this uncanny ability to see life just like through the eyes of a child. And I'll never forget Barbara was saying, and one day I was out watering my plants and I walked into the house, and in my living room, there was this reptilian man, and he was the most handsome thing. And I'm thinking, I probably would have had an instant laundry problem, number one. And number two, I don't know if I would have thought he was handsome, but she just walks right up and says, "Hi, I'm Barbara." What are you doing here? And then another time she was telling me about all of these little beings crawling all over her car. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that must have been so scary. And she's like, and they had just the cutest little faces and those little eyes. They were just adorable. And I just felt every story that Barbara has shared with me, I've just fallen in love with your innocence and, just the way you see life. I want to be Barbara when I grow up.
Okay. Okay. So wait a minute. So Barbara, you actually saw a tall reptilian walk in your living room?
Yes, I mean, this was a complete surprise. I had already been regressing people to their extraterrestrial experiences for, I think, about 13 years at that point, and had certainly heard a lot about reptilians along the way. And most of the reports I was getting from people is that, oh, they were kind of scary and very intimidating, sometimes very arrogant. Once in a while, somebody would mention somebody who had some nice qualities that they liked. But anyway, I was completely surprised just one day, innocently walking from my office room through the living room of my house. And when I got into the living room, there was this being standing there right in the middle of the living room.
Your eyes were open.
Oh, my
Like
eyes.
you could touch him.
Oh, yes, yes. So anyway, it
And
was
she did.
surprising. It was surprising, of course, that somebody was there in my home because my husband was away and I thought I was alone in my home, doors locked and everything. But anyway, here was this guy just standing there, and he impressed me as being a male. And not only was it somebody standing there, but it was a reptilian male. But even more of a surprise was that this reptilian male seemed really nice. He seemed friendly. He seemed safe. My thought is, oh, this is a really nice guy. So I went right over to him, and he had his hand out in a handshake position, and I held that hand in a
Wow.
handshake position for the next several minutes, probably at least 5 or 6 minutes, in which he talked to me telepathically. And basically, the visit from him was to show me when I was awake, conscious, alert, in the light of day. Lots of sunlight was coming in my living room at that point, and to validate for me that these experiences that people are having with the other beings are real. And
Wow.
that I mostly believe that. And once in a great while, if I was in some other country doing something totally different and then having a flash thought about the work I do back at home with the regressions, that every once in a while I'd have a little brief momentary doubt. I wonder if that could all be really real. And then the thought would go away and I'd come back and work with people feeling totally convinced about the reality of their experiences. But because I had that rare occasional doubt, those beings that he came from knew that I needed to have my own awake, clear, conscious experience of one of the beings. So holding his hand for a few minutes and hit with his talking to me telepathically and getting to look at him, all the coloring and texture of his skin and the muscular shoulders and the variegation of color in his body. I mean, that was absolutely convincing. I mean, this was a real experience and he was really there,
Right.
and it validated all the other experiences that I had helped other people to be aware of that they had had. So
I love this.
consider it wonderful. It was a wonderful event. And then suddenly, poofed, he was gone. I didn't see him turn around and walk over and go out the front door. He just, poof, was gone.
That
And
is amazing.
yeah. So he said that he had been especially bred to be a friendly ambassador and to validate people's experiences with, as he said, beings from elsewhere. He never used the word alien or extraterrestrial. He referred to any of them, other beings, as beings from elsewhere, which of course they are.
They are. And all of us kind of wish, we had a discussion at Sheila's a couple of years ago. It was Alan Steinfeld and your husband, Sheila. I don't even think you were down in the room. They were talking about what did they really want to see an ET in person and what that would feel like. And as they were talking, I was of mixed feeling about it. I saw someone shapeshift into a reptilian once, a good reptilian, but I watched her shapeshift and it was pretty kind of freaky. Her voice changed, her face changed. But as I'm listening to this conversation, I realized that as much as I say I would like to see them in the physical, part of me didn't know if I could handle it. And that's why it's very fascinating. I'm sure part of me didn't know if I could handle that. And yet having you confirm your encounter, it's kind of reassuring.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm still surprised at the whole thing, but without any doubt at all about that really having happened. And I wouldn't have known how I would feel either, actually meeting an extraterrestrial face to face. And of course, I had wondered that for the years that I was doing that work. And I thought, gee, maybe I would react like so many other people have reacted. In other words, being really, really afraid, or maybe I would be made to be unconscious.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like probably millions of people have been. So I didn't know either, but this was a real, undoubtedly physical appearance, a physical visit. And so I feel very privileged and pleased that amazed for one thing, that those beings knew about my work with people, helping them to uncover details of their extraterrestrial experiences. So it seemed like a privilege, really, that they knew about that and they approved of it, and actually sent one of them to validate the work and validate
checking you out.
everybody else's experiences who might ever accompanied in regressions. So the whole thing was a huge validation all the way around.
Well, when you do your regressions, then when people report these experiences, do you feel the presence of their extraterrestrial companions? Do you feel them? Do they talk to you?
Thank you for asking that question. Yes. First of all, I do feel their presence. And then when I'm conducting the regression and a person is with a group of extraterrestrials, I always ask them for lots of detail. Like, what exactly do they look like? Where are they in relation to you? What are they doing? Are they clothed? Are they not clothed? Just loads and loads of questions. And then if a person is on a medical table, which is very often the case, not all abductions or encounters have to do with being on a medical table. Many of them do. And so if a person is being examined or treated in some way while lying on a table, and it's always a mystery to that person, like, why am I here and what's going on? What are they doing and why? So I always ask, would you like to know what they're doing? and why? And the person always says, yes. So I say, well, you can ask them. You can ask it out loud, or you can ask it in your mind. And my experience is that they will answer. So the beings will answer the person I'm working with and give them a really clear, although brief, but very clear message on what they're doing. And very often it is that they are detecting some kind of problem that's going on with one of the body systems of that person. And if they have found something that is going wrong in the body, they will either go right ahead and heal it right then and there and heal it completely, or in some cases, they will tell the person to be sure to mention to their own doctor when they're back on Earth that there may be a problem with that particular organ or that system of their body, so that the doctor can make sure it is taken care of. Okay, so this is a very typical process that happens in many, many regressions. And then, with the beings having talked to the person, very often, not always, but very often, they will turn their attention to me as if they know that I am regressing the person to sort of having a sense of reliving that experience. So then, and they always use my first name, say, okay, now Barbara, we want to talk to you. And so they give a message, and basically there have been many, many messages now where this has happened during these sessions. And I'm always surprised, of course, and very pleased and amazed, that they know that I am doing this regression. I'm present with the person and with them, in a sense, by conducting the regression. So very often they will give me support and praise for helping people to know the details of their experiences with them. And then recently, a few months ago, instead of that sort of affirmation type of thing and appreciation, they said, we know about your intense interest in Easter Island. Now, this was a complete surprise, but I have had 2 trips to Easter Island and would love to go again. And the Moai statues on Easter Island have been very, very special to me personally. So they said, we know how much you appreciate those statues. And we know that when you were a child and saw your first picture of one of the Moai statues, that you immediately knew a couple of things. You knew they are alive, meaning conscious, and they are from somewhere else. When I was 6 years old and saw that first picture, and I can remember that consciously, I didn't know about any other beings being in the universe anywhere. I didn't know about extraterrestrials or other dimensional beings or anything like that. But I just knew that these beings shown in the statues on Easter Island were from somewhere else, that people did not make them. And even during my 2 trips to Easter Island, anybody we talked to who was an islander, they of course said, oh yes, well, their ancient ancestors had made all of those statues. But the being said, no, you were right in not believing them, because we made them incredibly long ago. And the making of the statues has been claimed, of course, by the local people. But we made them. We came to Earth, and they were so pleased that I recognized the consciousness in those statues. So when I was in Easter Island, those 2 times, I actually talked to each of the statue that I came to, and had a great sympathy for the ones that through the centuries had been toppled over. They just fell right over on the ground, face first, and sometimes their noses were broken off, or even their whole heads had been broken off. And we don't know exactly why they had been toppled over. Could have been from tsunamis or earthquakes or who knows what. But I just felt so strongly that each one of them had consciousness. And so I would talk out loud with them or to them. They didn't talk back to me that I'm aware of. But anyway, it was just a wonderful thing that these beings during somebody else's regression would know all of that, be aware of that, and be very in favor of it, very appreciative that somebody saw the consciousness of those statues and recognized that, no, they were not made by human beings.
You
Yeah.
know, I have always felt that they were conscious. I've been really magnetized by them. And last year when I was in Egypt, there were certain statues I looked at and I felt like they had been alive, that there was a consciousness in them, that they had literally, that they were more in a suspended animation, that they were real beings, that it somehow, I don't know what's the process where they could be temporary in stone, but I felt like they were really there and that they were just
Yes.
waiting to be woken up.
Right. Yes, I agree. I had that experience in Egypt as well. Yeah, there's something. And then, you can go other places and see other statues, and they may be beautifully made statues and very accurate, but I don't have that feeling with them.
Right.
But I
right.
did with the statues
Well,
in Egypt and Easter Island.
perhaps because they were actually ETs and that, they were in their form, and that's how come they weren't our conception of their form, that was their form. So I
Right.
find that kind of fascinating. So,
Yeah.
wow. So I find it fascinating, number one, that of course they would know who you are and what you're doing. That makes sense to me. And it makes sense that they're present with your client, like that they may come in and talk to you. I can kind of see it, them consulting you as you're working with them. But so over the years, how many years have you been doing regressions, Barbara?
Well, I started doing regressions for past lives in 1984 and continued that work and still do some of that now. And then I started the regressions to extraterrestrial experiences in 1991. And it's been a few thousand people I've worked with, and even more thousands of regressions as some people come back again and again. So my life has really opened up.
I bet you were not expecting any of this. It's one thing to do past life, and you did a past life regression for me in Glastonbury. So it's one thing to do a past life. It's another to be connecting and having you connect to ETs while you're doing it. But so my question that to think about, and Sheila can pop up too, how have things changed? Like the experiences that the people had 20 years ago when they were coming in, and now, has there been a difference in what's going on for people, or an upgrade, or any changes or new messages? Like what's been going on with that?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, in the early days, that is in the early 1990s, and right on through the 1990s, people's experiences with extraterrestrials, which we had regressed to, seemed to be more of a physical nature. There were a whole range of physical things that had gone on, including some really good things like physical healings by the beings. But I was just about to say there were more down-to-earth experiences.
Right.
Pun intended. They were down to planetary or down to starships experiences. And some of those experiences were of people being taken to other planets for a relatively short visit, maybe just a few hours. But then as time has gone on, and I would say in the last, say, 4 or 5 years, more and more people have been coming for regressions in order to find out their particular soul mission in being in this life. So it's been a more spiritual orientation rather than specifically extraterrestrial. Now, sometimes a person's mission does have in it that they are here to let other people on Earth know about all these other beings in the cosmos. That may be part of their mission. But many people are finding that they're here to raise the consciousness of humanity in various ways and are set upon doing that in their lives. Or they may come here mostly for healing. It could be physical healing or emotional healing. So I've been really noticing and very pleased, actually, that more and more people are coming out to find their real mission. So many of these people who come might be at least in their 30s and more likely in their 40s or 50s. And of course, they've had a lot of life by then and usually have been married and have children, raised children, and very often have had a whole career of a certain kind of work. And yet, at a certain point in life, they begin to really, really wonder, what is my real reason for being in this life? And if I can find out that real reason, I want to go ahead and start doing that, no matter what I've been doing up to this point. I really want to get on with it. So it turns out that a lot of those people are starseeds. And I have been so impressed with some of the missions that some of these starseed people are doing. And they all come from very differing backgrounds, different childhood, different family experiences, some more positive, some more negative. But in any event, they've eventually gotten to that point to really want to get on with their mission. A lot of these people have various psychic skills and very often healing skills. A lot of healing energy comes through them and they want to share it effectively. And they have many, many different talents that they can bring into performing their life mission. So I think that's wonderful. And
I
people
love that.
people are still coming. Other people are still coming for the regular old. What happened to me that night when I was driving and suddenly there was a big light shining down on the car, and next thing I knew, it was 2 hours later, and I had that missing time, or experiences of beings coming into the bedroom at night. Had one of those just yesterday, another one of the many. And there's just so much that happens with these experiences, so many different kinds of beings. I wouldn't even begin to try to guess the number of beings who are out there in the cosmos in various locations, and particularly the ones who come here and have something to do with human beings. But there are a lot.
Wow.
And they all come for different reasons, different agendas, different purposes. So it's a very fascinating subject, that is for sure.
And they know you. I can kind of see them up there discussing the work of Barbara Lamb.
Yeah.
I can just see it. So Sheila, have you noticed, like you've been working in this field for quite a while too, ever since you became a walk-in. Have you noticed a difference in like what people are dealing with now than they might have been a few years ago? Like have things progressed maybe? Are we waking up more? Or is the information different?
Yeah, I think that many more people are waking up. People are having lots of memories. They're coming in fully awake and aware, many of them. We still have a lot of people who are waking up to the fact that they're star seeds. And in the book, I have one section for walk-ins, one for star seeds, one for hybrids. But at the very beginning of the book, I kind of lay like the foundation on how something like this could even happen. Because when I first walked in, there wasn't a lot of information, and there really wasn't, a large group of people you could go to. Fortunately for me, when I went to see a counselor I thought was going to give me the little blue pill that I could pop and my life would go back to normal, instead of opening up this doorway in which I ended up not just walking through, but running through. When she introduced the concept of walk-ins to me, there had only been one book written about them, but she had another book, and it was about Lemuria and Mu, and there was an entire section about walk-ins. And so as I began to read this book, the first thing happened to me was I started getting really upset because it's like, what do you mean a walk-in? Again, I wanted the blue pill. I wanted my life to go back to normal. I wanted to stop seeing people walking around that weren't there, stop having them talk to me, and stop this and stop that, and shaking somebody's hand and knowing everything about them. I didn't want to know that stuff. But it came on full force, all of the clairs. As the second that I walked in, the door opened and it's never shut. But at first, it was very, very overpowering. And so, working with my spiritual teacher, I did find that I was very blessed to have. I was guided, guarded, and protected ever since I've walked in, because I had a nurturing group of women that helped me to anchor in and be able to accept who I was. However, outside of that circle, there was nobody. Now we have Zoom meetings. We have a plethora of books out there, whether it's walk-in starseeds or hybrids. People openly talk about quantum physics principles, and most people are like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. Maybe it's because of the internet, but maybe it's also because of our internet, because we're all connected. We
Right.
all are part of that collective consciousness. And so when there's thoughts that come in that are being beamed into the collective consciousness constantly, because that's what I was actually doing before I walked into the body. And as the collective consciousness begins to pick up on this information, then more and more people seem to be gravitating towards each other, and they begin to make collective groups together so that they can share what's happening. So today, I say, yes, there's a lot of people, and more people are willing to open up and talk about, the things that we're talking about here. But when I first walked in almost 25 years ago, no, there was no way.
I was thinking about all this stuff with the disclosure happening and stuff.
Yes.
And it's one thing for them to understand extraterrestrials are coming down here and these are their ships. It's another thing to understand that some people are actually part extraterrestrial. Some people are actually full extraterrestrial in a human body, and some are hybrids.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can imagine, because that's the next level of disclosure, is that, look, some of us have these connections, but how are they connected? Say the starseeds, the hybrids, and the walk-ins, and you can both answer.
Yeah, that's
where do you see all that connection?
Yeah, that's a great, actually, that's a great question. And I want to start with the hybrids, because I think all of us, to one form or the other, are in hybridized bodies, all the way back to when we were, our DNAs were being mixed with multiple races. And this has happened many times when the genetics of humans were being manipulated. We were being infused. First, it was with malevolent and then benevolent DNA to bring us really to where we are today. So I think all of us in one form or the other are hybrids. Now, not exactly the hybrids that we're talking about in the book, which we'll get back to in just a minute. But then again, like I said earlier, all souls have to come from somewhere. And I believe that a majority of the souls that are here on the planet right now are what we would call starseeds. And for me, a starseed, in the way my collective has talked about that, is literally we hold the DNA predominantly of one specific race over the other. Now, because we have incarnated many, many times, because, jokingly, I always say, guys, forever's a long time. And we have done and been a lot of things throughout the galaxy as well as on this planet. And when we come into a body, we're coming in from somewhere. And a starseed is someone who has come in directly from a planet. Now, sometimes these starseeds are in the forms of walk-ins, and they could be what we call a soul projection, where the individual is still on a planet, but they have gone into a stasis and they are projecting, because there is technology out there to do these very things, even though it might sound crazy, but it will project aspects of the soul into an individual. Okay. And so that can be a type of a walk-in. And so that's one way that all of these, and I hate to use the word beings, but we're human beings, but this is the way all of these beings can be connected. The walk-ins, the starseeds, and the hybrids, they can all be the same, and they can all be very, very different.
Amazing. So, Barbara, what's your experience?
Which kind of experience are you?
Well, so Sheila was talking about how she sees the connection between the starseeds, the hybrids, and the walk-ins. Like when you do your regressions, there must be a difference in people's experiences. Like, is there a difference in the why? Like, why do some people get to be walk-ins? Like, I think that's exciting. Why are some people the starseeds or the hybrids?
Well, that's interesting because in both cases with the walk-ins and the starseeds and the hybrids, there is a soul who wants to come to Earth and be of service, wants to really raise the consciousness of humanity and her help in some individual ways as well. So there are just these different forms that the soul can choose. So some will choose to be a walk-in, some will choose to be born here as a regular person and yet be a starseed with this larger mission, and some will choose to be a hybrid, which means that the hybrid, in order to be a hybrid, will be made in one or two ways. Another, still the choice of the soul, to have that experience, to come to Earth in that particular form for this individual lifetime. So the hybrid process, of course, involves the extraterrestrials taking eggs from a woman and sperm from a man. Usually it's a married couple, but not always. And they take that material and mix it together with their genetics and create a hybrid embryo and put that in the woman to gestate for a couple of months or more. And then the other way, when it's going to be a hybrid who's going to be born here and live here, they will take the woman when she's pregnant and she's been gestating the fetus for about 6 months or maybe a bit more. And then on the ship, they will inject that woman through her abdomen and through the wall of the uterus and into the fetus, inject it with their genetic material. So that fetus then becomes hybridized and then is born the regular way that we all are born and lives the whole life here on Earth among us, having been hybridized. And then, of course, there's the case of the hybrids who get to gestate in the human woman for about 2 months. And then that fetus, that embryo actually still, is removed from the woman and put in a tank of special gestation fluid on the ship and gestated to maturity till being ready to be born. And then that baby is taken out of the tank and raised on the ship. So there are actually two categories of hybrids that I know of, those who are more in proportion extraterrestrial genetics, looks and behavior and abilities. And they're the ones who stay on the ship with the beings. And then there are the hybrids who are born here who have some extra genetics, but not as large a proportion of those extraterrestrial genetics. Most of their genetics are human, and that's why they can live a regular human life here with us. But I would say that all the hybrids I know, they have some minor differences in their bodies. Other people might or might not know about it. Might be something different about their blood or their bone consistency, or their one organ might not be in the lower abdomen where it usually is. It might be up in the upper chest area. They might have slightly different skin type, but not enough to cause alarming attention. Anyway, there are various physical attributes that might be a little bit different. And mainly, these hybrids who are born here are very psychic. They're very sensitive to the density here on Earth. Now, I have never particularly heard of a person saying, oh, I just can't take the density here. But when I began to know the hybrid people living here, they would come about the density.
Right.
And because
they would say
their genetics, you see, are from beings who live in quite a different density, lighter density. And so that part of them really objects to the density that we have living here on Earth. Although the rest of us just go right along with whatever that density is, because we're structured for that. So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You definitely answered that question. Number one, I hadn't really thought about the fact that, of course, the hybrids, I'm not talking about the hybrids on the planet, because I know some, but that they chose to be here, just like we chose to be here. So I had to wrap around my head around that. But I have a trick question for you. Trick. Do you consider yourself a starseed, a hybrid, or a walk-in?
Who are you asking that to?
You.
Oh,
I
me.
I know Sheila is a
Well,
walk-in.
I definitely do not feel that I'm a walk-in. I have wondered if I'm a hybrid, but I don't necessarily think so. But I think there's a very good possibility that I'm a starseed. And I must say that I really didn't think about that until this last week or so, because of interviews that we've been giving. And just thinking, yeah, okay, I have a mission. I am really here for this. And so maybe that's a possibility. Also, I do not have distinct memories of being on another planet in a previous lifetime, but I've had a star origin reading by one of our wonderful hybrids, Jacqueline Smith, and she was able to see, with her special abilities, see many incarnations that I had as various types of extraterrestrials. So, and I'm very, very open to that idea. Somehow it feels very familiar that I have been other kinds of beings on other planets. as many, many of us humans have without even knowing it.
So have you been regressed to find out your past, your ET history?
No, I haven't really. I've had many regressions that took me into past lives and on Earth, and those are all very detailed and very remarkable experiences. I've also had a number, probably 10 or so, of what I eventually called spontaneous past life recalls. And they happened when I was in certain places. They happened in Peru the first time. There were two remarkable ones that happened there. One very full of emotion. And then I went to Egypt and had about 5 different spontaneous past life recalls. Went to Egypt again a year and a half later and had more. So that's what actually was a wonderful gift to me, because with these spontaneous memories coming up with real feeling and real detail and technicolor, real memories, it certainly seemed. That's what got me into wondering if I could somehow help people to know about their past lives. In my therapy practice, I was already a licensed therapist. And then I discovered there was the Association of Past Life Research and Therapies, and went to 5 years of their training to become a past life regression therapist. And then that eventually, a few years later, morphed into working with people who had had extraterrestrial encounters, using basically the same methods of work to get them into those past experiences. So
But
it's
it
been
was
a journey that I never planned, never had anticipated, but is absolutely wonderful. I think the way that it's unfolded, and I am just so completely grateful.
You've been a blessing to so many people, Barbara,
Mm.
that it's truly astounding, truly astounding. So you're saying that it was your experiences in Egypt that triggered your past life memories and your desire to then be a past life therapist,
Well, at that point, I didn't even
a
know there was
hypnotist.
such a thing.
Right. But ultimately,
But I was already a therapist, and these experiences were so profound for me, these spontaneous ones, that I thought, if I have had all these other past lives, most likely other people have too. Most likely everybody has. And that I just wonder if sometimes there are difficulties that they come to me for therapy for, could possibly have been originally caused by something in a previous lifetime. And that's why I thought, it might be a very helpful thing if people could somehow be guided into the past lives in which something happened that triggered the response that they have today in this life, so that we could hopefully clear it up. So with thoughts like that for about a year or so, then I discovered the Association for Past Life Research and Therapies and the training that they offered, and decided to really go for that. And I'm so glad I did.
wow, thank you. Well, there's Sheila down there. So I have another question. I don't know how long we're going tonight, but do you see a future then where like that the government and that humanity is going to recognize you as a starseed and Sheila as a walk-in and all these hybrids, that they've integrated really how much the extraterrestrial beings have integrated into our human life? Do you think that that will be recognized?
I have some serious doubts. I couldn't say no, it won't be recognized, but it seems so far anyway with the hearings that have been happening in Congress, and thank goodness they have. The focus has been so much on the unusual crafts in the sky that they have wondered about. It's so far as I know, the question has not come up about what about the occupants of those crafts? What about the beings? What about all these millions of people's reports of having unusual beings come to them and take them away for various experiences? In other words, ET encounters. So I think it's probably going to be a long time coming before that gets to be publicly discussed within our government. Now, in the meantime, lots of people are aware of the subject of UFO disclosure. And anytime I talk to somebody about that, I say, you know what? We are the disclosure. All of you people who are having experiences with the extraterrestrial beings, when you talk about that to somebody, you are part of the disclosure. Maybe you're not there in Congress giving testimony, but you're spreading it around in the culture. So I really encourage people who are having these experiences to let other people know, and just know that so many people are not open to the idea and may say, oh, you've got to be wacko. But go ahead and share anyway if you feel that you can possibly do that, because that is part of the disclosure.
I see that. I can understand that. So I know we've been talking around about it, but what are the different kinds? And I know that we talk about it in here, the different kinds of starseeds and the different kinds of walk-ins. And how would someone know which one they fit into?
Well, I think if they read this book, they would have a lot of clues, some of which would apply to them, some of them wouldn't. That's one reason why I hope a lot of people will read this book, because we do delineate what a walk-in is in wonderful detail from Sheila, and a lot of detail about the starseed people and about the hybrid people, that whole process. And by the way, there are not only starseed adults, but there are starseed children. They're usually referred to as star kids. And there's been a little bit of notice about that in the general public, I think, being aware of these amazing children, just full of incredible abilities and wonderful intelligence, and have all the telepathic or all the paranormal abilities, the psychic abilities, and a lot of them are healers as well. And there are some people, I would guess that they're probably starseed people, who are creating schools for those star kids and special training for them, helping them to recognize who they are, what their abilities are, and to increase their use of their particular special abilities. So that's a good thing in the culture as well.
I agree. I agree. So are there stories that you shared like in here that mean the most to you, that really resonated you or surprised you? Like some of the regressions that you did that you share in here?
Yeah, some of them, the starseeds, I would say, stand out the most to me, because these people have just considered that they're regular people, regular human being people. And yet, when we look back on their lives, as we always do before the regression itself, there were hints that they didn't know what those hints meant, but hints that they did have some special abilities, special sensitivities. They had wonderful motivations, usually to be helpful to other people in some way, even if they didn't know as a child what that way would be. But I think that they had very moving stories about their lives and how they came to recognize their special abilities and develop the motivation to apply those abilities in particular ways. So it's been very inspiring, I think. I'm also very inspired and impressed by any of the walk-ins, because what an incredible change that must be to be a different kind of being, maybe in a different dimension or a different extraterrestrial civilization, and then make that change to be a human being. And suddenly, as Sheila was describing, suddenly wake up and one day and you're in a different body in a whole different place, and you've got a husband whom you hadn't even known and children whom you hadn't even known before you came here, and then having to adapt to life here and get through all the puzzlements and changes. Very often those marriages don't last because the new soul in the body is just so different and has such different intentions. And so those marriages often don't last. But what an amazing challenge it must be for that soul to suddenly be in a human life, having been somewhere else and doing, being such a different kind of a being before coming here. So I give great credit to Sheila and all the other walk-ins that there are. I'm absolutely amazed. And they are such amazingly intelligent people, knowledgeable people. They have a lot of contact with the higher beings they came from. Like Sheila talks about her collective. These are higher beings who are just beaming her information and suggestions, guidance, helpfulness all the time. And we are so privileged as humans to be able to receive that through Sheila and the other walk-ins. So I'm very impressed with them and grateful that there is such a thing as a soul coming in to a body that's already maybe in that person's 20s or 30s or 40s or so, with lots of years left for doing the work that the walk-in came to do. So we're very fortunate, I think, to have that amongst us.
Yeah, one of the things in the book, I have a whole chapter dedicated to the ascension process, how the soul leaves source and the various steps that it goes in. Now, this is obviously just for the book because there's many, many more steps that happens before the soul actually incarnates into the body. But, it gives us an idea, and I've got a graph. I don't know if we can see. I see Janelle out there. You probably
It's right
recognize
here, right.
the graph. Yeah.
Very
So this is,
complicated, this process.
yeah, it's the soul ascension process. And, when I first came in, one of the first things I did, once I knew my collective and where I was from and had a relationship with them, was to ask if I was a body snatcher, because that really bothered me, the thought that there was another soul here, but now I inhabited that body. And I was like, well, what happened? What happened to the other soul? And that's when I also learned about birth plans, because I was told that, before there is an ascension process, there is a birth plan for most souls that are totally laid out so that there is a beginning and an end. However, in that between the beginning and the end, we have what's called choice points. And these are exit strategies that we have set up for ourselves so that if we need to, if we have accomplished everything, our goals and objectives and our work plan, if we have accomplished all of those things, then we can exit out. And that's what had happened to this soul. And it just so happened that the collective I was part of was working in the crystalline grid. And when we heard the soul of this body cry out to be released, it was decided by that collective that I would be the aspect to come in. Because it's one thing to be beaming in light codes of unconditional love, support, awakening, helping to repair the crystalline grid. But it's another thing to be boots on the ground, because, here I can be more
Right.
vocal. Here I can give more messages. Here I can share, what it is, my truth that I remember from the other side. Now, other people may have different memories because, it depends on where you are, what you've experienced, the density that you come from, the dimension that you come from, etc. And that was something else that I wanted to explain in the book, because I couldn't figure out, when they started talking to me about 7D and 8D and these types of things, I assumed that it was dimensions because, 20 plus years ago, I'd never heard of a density. What are you talking about, a density? It's a dimension, not a density. But they explained to me that the dimensions are more of your thought processes. It's a perception, how you can hold energy. Yet the density is the frequency of the mass of where you hold that thought process. Okay. And so the dimensions is how we are able to move up into our consciousness. That's why we can all be having a third density experience on this planet, but some of us hold third dimensional consciousness and others hold 17th dimensional consciousness or 12th dimensional consciousness. But I always tell people the trick is to be able to hold and to anchor those higher consciousnesses, because we all have epiphanies from, every now and then. It's like, oh my gosh, or we have those days when it's like, man, I could just float right out of my body. But if we can hold that, that's the dimension. Okay. We have to anchor that into the density of the body. And so they began to talk to me about that. So in the first part of the book, I really take time to explain what those differences are for people who might just be learning about it. And then, of course, those are all held in the in this universe that we have. And that's what helps us to grow, to shift, and to change. So I had to talk about parallel lifetimes, and I had to talk about timelines and how that works with us. And then, of course, you have to talk about the planes of existences, because some people are like, well, what plane are we in? Because you have to understand each of these planes also has densities and dimensions. And if you could actually look at the earth as it was, you would see everything is divided up just like this, in layer after layer after layer, and layer after layer after layer, and layer after layer after layer. And we hold all of that inside of us because we are already all of those things, because we are source incarnate. Okay. And so when I work with people and they're like, well, I want to do this or I want to do that and I want to learn this and I want to learn that, it's like, just drop back into that which you already are, because you already are these things. All you have to do is remember. So my goal is, I hope this book will help people to remember who they are. You don't have to identify as a walk-in. You don't have to identify as a starseed, and you don't have to identify as a hybrid to be able to drink up the energy or the messages that's coming through. But if you think you are a starseed, a walk-in, or a hybrid, then this book very easily gives you clues as to what you could possibly be, realizing that all of us have, all walk-in starseeds and hybrids, we all have a lot of things in common. And so sometimes it's really hard to differentiate what that is. But the reality is, as long as you can drop in and listen to yourself and hear your own inner voice, you really will be able to find out if you're a walk-in starseed or hybrid, just by asking and listening. But most people want to be told because they want the answer like really fast. But, if we just drop into silence and sit and become that which we already are, then we've already got all the answers. But I hope this serves as a guidebook for you.
It's a great guidebook. I have to say that it actually is mind-boggling. And I have to look at some of it a second and third time because you really broke down everything. You broke down all the different dimensions, the densities, the types of souls, the types of walk-ins. You had all these walk-ins that I had never actually heard of even that were
Yeah.
still coming in. And I think it's a huge, I think in one book you've put in a lot, but it seems to be such a vast topic. So
Yeah.
much to think about that. The timelines converging, the dimension. It's very mind-boggling to some of us.
Well, and right now we're in a process where timelines are collapsing. Every time we make a decision, because we have that source energy inside of us, we're creating another timeline where that energy has to work out. And because more and more of us are pulling ourselves into this now moment, those timelines are collapsing. And as they do, we have to be sure we want to clear all the karma for those timelines because we don't want to be sucking that stuff into us. And we have to be sure that we're clearing out anything in an individual timeline that if we bring it in, we don't want to create more ancestral healing for ourselves to walk through. And so, by spending a little bit of time going through the book, looking at all the different timelines that there are, you can begin to set your intention that you choose to clear all of that, and you can. But the trick is then you have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you have done what you set forth to do.
Yes. Well, that's a lot. I think you did a great job, ladies, with this book. I think that
Thank you.
you broke it down very, very specifically in a lot of detail. So it's actually easier to understand if you're a hybrid or a starseed or a walk-in and what that means and what it means in this cosmic consciousness universe. So it was very, very well done.
Thank
And
you.
the
And I
stories
told,
are great.
yeah. The people who have sat with me like Janelle in circle, it's like, oh yeah, about 6 years ago, we had this in class. We've already talked about that. So what I tried to do was pull those teachings together that I had written. And the reality is the first whole half of the book, I was going to put into an appendix. And then my publisher's like, no, you can't do that. You got to put this in. And so I'm like, Barbara, I got to rewrite all of this. She's like, oh, that's okay. You can do it. And I'm like, and so I had to spend about another month and, rewrite it in a way that it really made sense. And then I just kept trying to break it down because I remember in my last book, Miguel Mendonça was my editor, and he kept saying, just keep breaking it down. Just keep breaking it down. Just keep breaking it down. He's like, nobody wants to read a textbook. I'm like, oh God, I can't. So I was trying to challenge myself, and I could still hear his voice. Break it down, break it down, break it down. So I tried to use his expertise and bring it forward in the book too.
Yeah, well, you accomplished it. You definitely broke it down into the experiences, the soul, the master soul, the ley lines of the body that I didn't realize that we had ley lines in our body.
Yeah, and the ley
yeah.
lines is something that came to me from part of my healing team. The Andromedans, the Arcturians, and the angelic beings came to me during a healing session. And I always have an Arcturian healing team that I was working with, but they started saying, okay, well, all of a sudden the Arcturians stopped and they stood back. And I'm like, oh, this is, they must be finished or they're going to do something phenomenal, and in come these other three beings. And the Andromedan turned to me and she says, she goes, now we're going to teach you about the ley lines. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we call those meridians. And she's like, no, 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 we're going to teach you about the ley lines. And of course, me being me, it's like, no, we call those meridians. She's like, no, we're going to teach you about the ley lines. Again, I go, "Zzt," and I'm like, oh, okay. And they did. They began to teach me about all of these holographic structures that we have and how it runs through us and connects us to all things. And I tell everybody that I truly believe that that's what the Native Americans were referring to when they were talking about that we're all connected and the fact that there is a web of life. Because if you think about us being connected to all things, it's going to look like a spider web.
Right.
I would like to interject here that one of the things that I've been very involved in since 1991 also has been the crop circle phenomenon. And I went for 25 years and visited to England and visited a couple of thousand crop circles. So the web of life, which Sheila is speaking about, that appeared in a beautiful crop circle in 1994. We simply were calling it the web because it kind of looked like a web, the very beautiful web. But Sheila is giving additional meaning to that, the web and how we are all connected, which I think is absolutely beautiful. And being in crop circle land in England is where I learned about ley lines running through the earth, like they run through individual bodies as well. And I've been very, very interested in ley lines, and ley lines when they come together, they form what we call a power point. And that's where all the ancient megalithic sites were built millennia ago in England, Scotland, Ireland, a lot of the European countries, and probably elsewhere in the world as well. So the ley lines are very important, very, very much part of the earth energy, earth life, and of course, human life as well. So it's lovely how all of this kind of goes together.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
we're including more and more all the time in our understanding and appreciation
right.
of all of this. Yeah.
Well, speaking of appreciation, I really appreciate you, Joan, for being my co-host this month. I noticed that we've run over a little bit. Sorry, guys. I always try to end at least a quarter after, and it's not because we're being interviewed. I just got caught up in the conversation, so I apologize for running over. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Hopefully you will end up ordering the book. You can get that on Amazon. We officially launched the book in November the 22nd. However, right now Amazon is doing this beautiful pre-release, and so it's available on Amazon right now. And so we're very, very excited about that. Barbara, I thank you for coming out again tonight. And doing another interview. I think all we've been doing is talking about the book, which of course I love. It's been
Yeah.
absolutely, phenomenal because we keep really going a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper into the book every time. There are several people who are interested in learning more about how they can get a hold of you. So could you please share your web address or your email with people?
Yes, I think the best way is to go through my website. That's the easiest to remember. And the website is barbaralamregression.com. Barbara Lamb, that's LAMB, regression.com. Or they can email me at barbara.lamb.therapist@gmail.com. But I am
Thank
still
you.
doing regressions and very, very happy to be continuing with that work.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Miss Joan, if people want to get a hold of you and have one of your energetic chiropractic sessions, or if they want to book a soul portrait with you, how can they get a hold of you?
You can go to Joan of Angels. It makes it so easy. joanofangels.com, joanofangels@gmail.com. So all of that. So I make it very, very easy. Yes, I'd love to help any of you. I want to tell you that it's wonderful to talk to both of you. Just wonderful to hear your experiences. I know you interview everyone, Sheila, but it's just great to hear sort of what you have to say. And I loved how it started off with Willow being a starseed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that sort of took us a little bit off topic, but I think it was kind of
Oh.
interesting.
Was very much on topic,
Yeah,
actually.
well, actually, yeah.
Who knew
Well,
really
it's, yeah.
that a dog or any animal can be a walk-in. And I
Yeah.
think it's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there are many different types of walk-ins, and I cover all of those. There's many types of star seeds, and we talk about those, many types of hybrids. And so you can learn about all of those, as well as some of the quantum theory that I actually came in with. So you can imagine 20 years ago having all that information in my head, and I'm like, I don't even know my name or who I'm married to, much less what the heck is this? What are you talking about? Densities and dimensions and all of those things. But, time has a way of working itself out. And so, if anything we've said tonight is of interest, please, check out the book. We would appreciate it so much. Joan, again, thank you so much for being here. Barbara, it's always a pleasure to spend time with you, and I love to listen to your stories. I could just, we're going to have the Barbara Lamb hour, I love it.
Yes.
Like, okay, now Barbara, tell us about this, tell us about that. But thank you guys for hanging in there with us. And again, the book is Cosmic Convergence, The Journeys of Walk-ins, Starseeds, and Hybrids. You can get that on Amazon. So, everyone, I will announce that I will not be here on Thursday, as I have Dr. Anna here visiting, and we have some things we have to do. But Glenda is going to step in for me. And we also have another lady who's coming. So they're all going to be dressed up. There will be tons of ghost stories, real ghost stories. So if you join us on Thursday, be sure to put on your cat ears and your little whiskers or your little maid outfit, whatever it is, your little witch's hat, and join us on Thursday night for our Halloween special. I think you're really going to love it. Tina Irwin is going to be back. She has multiple books back out, and she's going to share that information with you. And it's going to be a blast. So dress up, come in your wildest attire, and have a blast on Thursday. So until we are all back together again, Joan, thank you again for this month. Barbara, thank you. Thank you, everyone who's out there watching. Much love to everyone. And join us again. So much love, everyone. Namaste, and have a blessed evening. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Great to see you
Bye.
this